we're going to start with Sam. Sam has been, as I said, running this business in China for a couple of years. I don't know if some of you went to Mercedes-Benz Arena, which is a little bit out of town, beyond the river. So I wanted him to share a little bit with us all these early beginnings actually in China. And so I leave it to you, Sam.
Thank you, guys. My name is Sam. As Laura mentioned, I spent 5 years in China from 2008 to 2012, pretty much building the sports and entertainment and arena business for and with AEG. I think the Olympics, being awarded the Olympics, Beijing being awarded the Summer Games in 2000 really changed the landscape of our business, and being able to come to China in 2008 to extend what the Beijing Olympic Games delivered to China and to the world. And we were very fortunate to be invited there through some great partners, both in Beijing and Shanghai, to not only extend the Beijing Wukusang Arena, but also help build the Shanghai World Expo Pavilion as part of the 2010 World Expo in Shanghai. And it was a very interesting beginning because I think in 2008, the Western entertainment that was trying to come to China was few and far between. I mean, you had maybe 1 to 5 shows a year, and that was because really, I think the artists that were known weren't today's or that day's artists. They were older artists, whereas social media today, why we're all here, has really brought the spotlight on today's artists and have been able to bring to Taylor Swift's of the world, to China and to Asia immediately when they do their tours. And that really is because of the venues. We believe that, without having a place for live entertainment, whether that be music or sport, to be consumed in the best way possible, then the experience is not as grand. Does that kind of answer that a little bit to start the setup?
To start, exactly. And can you tell us actually precisely how much AEG was successful actually in selling the naming rights to a Western brand for a Chinese venue? I mean, that was a first of a kind. So
absolutely, I would say we weren't successful in the beginning. I think we made a lot of mistakes, and a lot of foreign Western companies probably do the same thing in trying to go there maybe with too much of a Western mentality and not enough of a balance. But also, I think China, from a brand corporate sponsorship perspective, didn't totally believe in the beginning that it was possible or would be accepted or responsive as it was, that a brand put their name on a venue. And it took a bold brand like Mercedes-Benz, who was going through an identity where Audi was #1 in the market. Mercedes-Benz wanted to reach a more younger millennial generation and identify with the youth and the up-and-coming generation, so they would aspire to drive a Mercedes-Benz earlier in life and not later in life. And we were able to give them that platform through the Shanghai World Expo Performing Arts Center in Shanghai. And I think that also kind of gave you an idea of Shanghai as a city being very receptive to advertising, sponsorship, naming of a venue versus Beijing, because the Beijing venue was first, but we actually sold it second. So we were able to sell Shanghai on the come 2 years before it actually would open for publicly ticketed events. But once Mercedes-Benz did it, then MasterCard quickly followed in Beijing. And then I think the ultimate success of what we were able to do in China, and still are, is to sell the naming rights to a Chinese brand, and that was Zhangsheng in Dalian, who came on board as our 3rd naming rights partner. So at the end of the day, we're a company that believed in China, believed in bringing, and still do today, international music and content to the people of China. And we were successful because we weren't doing this a US or international way, but more of a balance. And we have people on the ground, over 20 people in our headquarters in Shanghai, but probably about 150 people working in the venues who every day put on the shows and open the venues in a safe way. So it's about having the people on the ground to identify with the communities.
So you signed Mercedes-Benz in 2009.
Correct.
And that's a 10-year contract.
Correct.
That's it. So what happened? I mean, 10 years, it's quite a long time, actually. So how does it work? Or
Yeah, we always, for naming rights deals, we always look for long-term partnerships because obviously the value in that partnership grows with time and the identity of the venue and the community from the media and the fans to identify with the venue as the #1 entertainment destination in that city. We have venues all around the world. We have a partnership here in Paris with Bercy that's going through a renovation. So we always look for long-term partnerships to be associated with our venues. And in the case of Mercedes-Benz in Shanghai, 10 years, especially in China, is a very long time. And we were very proud to be able to get Mercedes-Benz to sign up for that long. That was one of our learning experiences right away. So thinking beyond 2, 3, 4 years is a big step for a brand in China.
Do you have brands, I mean, queuing, I mean, to get that kind of sponsorship as well? I mean, behind, I don't know.
I wish my job was that easy. No,
Yeah,
unfortunately, we don't have the phone doesn't ring
never
to
know,
us
I mean,
as much.
when
But I
you
will
see
tell
the-
you
yeah.
that with the success of Mercedes-Benz Arena, MasterCard Center, and the O2 in London and Staples Center in LA, is once these things do become successful, that next meeting, you're meeting with someone to sell another city, they're saying, well, when is Mercedes-Benz contract up in Shanghai? Because I'd love to have that. So I guess the moral is, there's only one in each city. That's the big one. So get there first.
Okay. When we're talking also entertainment in China, I mean, how much different are Chinese, entertainment goers different from their like in the world? I mean, say in the US or whatever, in Europe. I mean, how do they, in terms of expectations, usage, behaviors? I mean, is there a way to consume entertainment? Would you say in such venues as the one?
In a live space. I think it's changed. I mean, again, when I got there in 2008, it was the beginning of this, and I think being able to prove, especially to the government, the police, that our venues were safe and a great environment to enjoy live music, maybe more like they do in Korea or Japan and America, where you actually stand up and dance and sing along. I mean, I remember our first few shows in 2008 and 2009, the police were asking people to sit down, like, no standing, almost like Footloose, right? No dancing, no enjoying. And now, I think the police have trusted us, the community has trusted us, and our venues have proved that that's where people go to also smile. I mean, you mentioned happiness. I mean, my little line is that we're not curing cancer and saving lives. We're putting smiles on people's faces and giving them a safe environment to enjoy their favorite band, like might bring. That is what it's all about today. And it's not. You've probably never heard of AEG. It's not that AEG is giving these brands, consumers, that opportunity. It's Mercedes-Benz and MasterCard. It's that brand who's in the front who get to relate to the consumer that says, you know what, it was Mercedes-Benz Arena where I got to actually see my favorite artist, Katy Perry, in the world in my hometown, and I never thought that would have been possible.
Okay. In terms of social media, I mean, you've been developing your WeChat account at the Mercedes-Benz Arena in Shanghai. You're on Weibo as well. We know how much, I mean, social is very much part now of live entertainment and live entertainment on TV, say. How would you say, does it differ as well from the way, I mean, we socialize with content, whether it is online or on TV, whatever, in the West and in China? I mean, how much they complement each other?
Yeah, no, I think it's complementary. I mean, again, we provide the content for people to talk about. So if you don't have an experience to share, whether that be via a picture or a video or even a text to say, I was there, what are you talking about? So
nothing.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's the key to having the live experience complement the social digital experience.
Okay, great. Fantastic. Do you have any questions? I mean, for the moment, in terms of the introduction with Sam, anything about this entertainment business? I mean, are there some automotive brands in the audience? I know that DS is going to be there today. It's not yet there. No.
Anyone want to buy the naming rights in Paris?
Yeah. But tell us a little bit about Paris, actually, Sam. I mean, that's something. No. I mean, I hardly spoke about it because you said that was kind of secret defense, but you have something to say about it.
I'll touch on Paris too, but just to kind of give the synopsis or the culmination of the success that Mercedes-Benz has enjoyed with us in Shanghai is that we just recently announced our second naming rights partnership with Mercedes-Benz in Berlin, and they will take over the name of the O2 World in Berlin. And there would be no way that this German international brand would have had the confidence to buy naming rights from us in Berlin if the success didn't happen in Shanghai. And that's how, I think that's one of the best case studies we have in our entire company of 20 years doing what we're doing, is that the Shanghai example now is perceived as a landmark benchmark for a company like Mercedes-Benz, and they want to duplicate that now in their hometown. So yes, in Bercy here, we also are very proud, and I think there is some connection and synergies between China and Paris, obviously, by the amount of tourism that is coming here from China to Paris, and we are excited to now have a part ownership in this lovely venue in Bercy that is top 5 in the world. And we're looking for a brand, and we've actually spoken to some Chinese brands, and they're very interested in being a part of this venue, some French brands, but also French brands to identify with the Chinese community who travel here, but Chinese brands who not only want to attract international, but show their brand in Paris when Chinese come over here to shop and eat and visit and consume live entertainment.
That's going to be, I mean, the very first time actually we do it. You said not in France. There are some other venues.
There are some venues that are named, but not in the city of Paris. So this will be another historic partnership that we enter into in the first arena major venue in the city of Paris ever to have a corporate name.
Fantastic. Congrats. Great. Thanks, Sam. Okay, Q. Q, so music. So Q has been actually, as I said, but I will leave him introduce himself. You know, really running, doing music. I mean, producing music, promoting actually artists and K-pop singers and groups. And he's been actually at the forefront in promoting Psy. I don't know if you pronounce it this way, Psy abroad, and make it a success.
Psy.
I mean,
Yeah.
Psy. I mean, that's
Yeah.
sometimes it's Psy, Psy. And make it a success also abroad. So Q, tell us
Sure.
the story about K-pop culture.
Good morning, everybody. My name's Q Lee. Thanks for inviting me here. It's my second time in Paris, and pretty excited about it. Glad I met Sam here. I think it's I think I see a pretty strong partnership with him later on. So thank you for
That's
having
the
him.
place.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
if you can make business,
I mean,
great.
I kind of want to tap on that a little bit as well. I'll give you a little bit of a background on me, just so you understand what I'm talking about. I've been in the business. It's my 17th year now in the business. I started off at Sony Pictures Entertainment, which is a movie studio I'm sure you guys have maybe heard of. I worked there for about 10 years. In 2009, they transferred me to Korea to oversee the Korean marketing, distribution, and production offices in Korea. So in 2009, I went there, and I've been there since. I haven't been able to leave. But most of my business has mainly been in the film department, and I've been touching a little bit on the music forefront since the last 4 years. I had some fun and some luck in 2012. I had a friend of mine named Scooter Braun, who's a music manager in the U.S., who represents Justin Bieber in the U.S., and he had called me one day in 2012, in July 30th to be exact. It was about 3 a.m. in Korea, and he called me and he said, "Hey, I just saw this really funny music video called Gangnam Style on YouTube. Have you seen it?" And you may not believe it, but I didn't even know what it was, and I live in Korea. And I said, "What do you want with it?" He said, "I want to buy the rights." "What are you going to do with the rights to a Korean song?" I said, "I don't know. I just want to do a remake. I think it's just really funny. I think Bieber would be perfect for it." I was like, "Okay, well, let me see what I can do." So I made a couple phone calls. I called a company called YG Entertainment that represents Psy, but I didn't really get much of an answer, so I had to use my personal contacts to kind of go back door and meet him personally. So I called another artist who's a rock star in Korea that I'm a good friend of, and he introduced me back door. And then met Psy. I had to do a little convincing, and then I took him to the US to meet Scooter on August 14th of 2012. And we struck a management deal to start a little bit of a promotion in the US just to see what we could do. originally he just wanted to do a remake with a U.S. artist, but I told him, hey, you know what? It's a global market now. There's a lot we can do outside of the U.S. I mean, if you look at the film business, we make more internationally than we do domestically in box office. We may make about, when I was at Sony, we were making 1.56 billion international box office, and we were only making 1.2, 1.3 billion domestically. So how important the international market has become over the past 5 to 6 years has been incredible. And the music business, I think, in the same way, is very important and has been going on the same track. So, you know, there hasn't been a Korean or an Asian artist that has flourished in the U.S. mainstream market to date until Psy happened. And I told Scooter, hey, you know, we have nothing to lose, and you have nothing to lose. I mean, you've succeeded with Bieber, with Carly Rae Jepsen, with Adriana Grana, and you know, so on and so forth. What's it going to hurt you to fail with an Asian artist that we haven't even tried yet? And 2 weeks later, he became a world star, and it broke every YouTube record, including Justin Bieber's. And I heard about 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, they broke the YouTube algorithm because the hits couldn't keep going. So I think personal relationships are very important. I think you know, we could talk about tracking and stats all day long. We could talk about market research and what has to be done in order to promote and succeed in a campaign. But it's really events like these where I can meet someone like Sam and myself, where we can collaborate on projects, because I may have the content, but without the platform to promote and to present on, there's nothing really we can do. And vice versa. If he doesn't have content, then he's just got an empty platform with nothing on it. So, I mean, it's so important for us to collaborate, and it makes business a lot easier when we have you know, personal contacts that make things a little bit easier than the norm. That's kind of how my business has been for the past 15 years, and you know, Psy really put me on the map as far as being able to globalize business a little bit more. So it's been a lot of fun.
Thanks. And so we're talking music, we're talking K-pop. Actually, I remember you said, okay, K-pop is K-culture. And on the other side, I watched one of the interview you made. I mean, you're attending a lot of shows, entertainment shows in the US or Korea. And I remember one guy was saying, I don't see that much K-culture into K-pop. So how would you say, you know, we're talking cultures. It's going to be Laurence who's going to talk just after us in a few minutes. How would you say, how would you define this K-pop? I mean, it's not phenomenon. I was wrong when I said phenomenon. You said, well, somehow, you know, I didn't know anything. Because, I mean, this is Korean culture. Okay, how would you define it? And it hasn't been a recent phenomenon, actually, in China. I mean, this influence of Korea into the entertainment business and much far beyond this. How do you explain why something is happening in the fact that it's accelerating? We feel like there is an acceleration. There is really a big momentum for it.
Well, I was informed that most of the people that are joining us today are from, you know, retailers and brand managers and you know, people with platforms to, you know, to distribute content. So I'll kind of customize the answer to correlate with that. K-pop, I think, is from a personal standpoint, it's a brand. It's a genre, but it's also a brand. I think. You know, K-pop is something that has only been around 10, 15 years. I mean, before that, it was music that was inspired by American pop, contemporary jazz, and rock. And now that Korea has kind of built their own system as far as incubating artists from, you know, trainees to professionals, it's actually been pretty insane. I mean, there's so much that goes on in K-pop. I mean, it starts from a training process, then it goes into a makeover process, which includes plastic surgery and whatnot, and a lot of that is actually not a supporter of it, but it's, you know, it's very common and promoted to create an image where it's going to work all around the world. Kids are from ages of 16 to 21 are trained for anywhere between 5 to 10 years before they're actually led on stage, and they're perfected like a military. They dance perfectly, they sing perfectly, they present perfectly, and we have stylists. I met a couple guys from L'Oreal yesterday, and a lot of stuff is styled through L'Oreal in Korea, and all those things are put together to make it a package which makes K-pop a brand. I mean, it hasn't gone global quite yet, I think. I mean, we've had glimpses of success here in Paris with SM Entertainment's Super Junior and Girls' Generation. I mean, those two groups are now in their 10th year since being created, and now they're not Super Junior, they're Super Senior. And Girls' Generation is, all about to retire, and it's going to be a new group of wave of K-pop is going to come through. But it's a system, I think, is what it is more than anything else. I think it's a great training process to create artists, but at one point, the reason why the US artists do so well or international artists do so well is because they have this feel and way to express their emotions, whereas K-pop has kind of been very structured and very flat. So I think the new wave of K-pop is being structured, but also a balance of being able to be a little bit more, showing the body language a little bit more. So to answer your question, it's more of a brand right now than I think. And to elaborate on that a little bit, why the Chinese market is so important is, I mean, if you look at the globe, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think about 80% of the human population is in Asia right now. And there's so many ways to create business.
Indians.
Well, I mean, I consider India a part of Asia. And what great place to have business and to be able to flourish in Asia, because I mean, like I said earlier, more than half of our box office that we do in Hollywood is earned from the international market, and I think anywhere else would be the same for every different platform or brand that you guys are all marketing yourselves. Star marketing is very important in Korea. If one star flourishes in Korea, then they all distribute into China and Southeast Asia, and creates a lot more business, not just for Korea, but for the international brands as a whole. So we were speaking last night. There's one Korean actress that was on a Korean drama last year, and she was using some lipstick, and all the Chinese tourists from China went to Paris, I think, to buy that brand, and they were just not available anymore after 2 days.
Do you remember the brand? Or
I think it was like a Dior, Christian Dior lipstick or something like that.
I don't remember.
It was just, yeah, it was ridiculous. But just the power of marketing and Korean talent flourishing into China, into Southeast Asia has been lucrative for, I think, a lot of luxury and fast fashion brands all around the world.
And would you say, since you're based in Korea but doing a lot with the US, that the way marketers actually capture this trend, this opportunity, is as big in the US, for say, as it is in China? Or even, I mean, Europe, it's the early stages, it's coming in. I mean, they're promoted,
right.
We see them on stage, but just... so in between China and you would say the US, I mean, are advertisers for you?
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
the US?
I think Asia's in first place right now as far as, getting things onto the market and selling them out really fast, and then it's the U.S. and then into Europe. But China is such an important market. They may lack in content, but they don't lack in money, and they want to buy everything out, and so why not? Let them buy it. I mean, the more they buy, the more money we make. So. It's really funny because there's talent in Korea that's more popular outside of Korea than in Korea itself. So a lot of artists, K-pop artists in Korea that aren't so popular in Korea, look out to promote
That
themselves
happens.
in China and in Europe.
Every Korean band, every K-pop band that comes to Shanghai and Beijing sells instantly. And I don't know if you guys realize how hard it is to sell 15 to 20,000 tickets. It's not an easy feat for an artist to do, but these bands, Super Junior, etc., Big Bang, when they come to Shanghai, it's instant. They could probably do 3 or 4 shows, which is pretty special.
Do you have any questions for Q? Anything that we can push a little bit of music, maybe, Ghislain? What do you think? Because I mean, we're talking music and entertainment, so we have fantastic, entertaining guests, but I guess we need a bit of music. If somebody wants to dance, it's allowed. That's really good.
앉아있나요? 여보세요. 문을 여시오. 여보세요. 문을 여시오. 문을 여시오. 오늘 하루를 그냥 보내는 분. 오늘 하루를 마냥 앉아있나요? 이 늦은 발걸음을 어서 떼세요. 어둠이 꽉 닫힌 문을 여시오. 일은 하지도 않고 아직도 넘어가냐. 아직도 엄마에게 용돈을 부탁하는 나. 너 왜 도대체 왜 닫혀있던 문을 열어. 문을 여시오. 문을 열어. 내 마음을 문을 열어. 문을 여시오. 문을 여시오. 어서. 아이 좋다. 어서. 아싸. 아싸. 문을 여시오. 이제부터 하나하나 문을 여시오. 오늘부터 하나하나 보여주시오. 오늘보다 많이 무서워시오. 오늘부터 문을 여시오. 열어.
Great. Thanks. Q, fantastic. I love K-pop. Thomas. Welcome. So,
Thank you.
Thomas, you're going to tell us about gaming. Actually, we know like Chinese love to play. They are really gamers. I mean, lottery is something that is exploding as well. I mean, buying tickets online, on e-commerce platforms, playing games and different apps, etc. So you have a great story that is happening actually right now.
Yeah.
So I leave it to you to share it.
Great. So first, before I dive into that, I just want to say one thing about what we just saw, the video. I think it's very funny to see it from here. Like, look at you guys, watch that K-pop video. It's hilarious. I think Chinese people really resonate with K-pop culture because it resembles them, not just physically, but in terms of the values, the humor, and a lot of the intrinsic values that are actually in Korean culture. So they might buy or not a Korean phone, they might buy Korean fashion, they listen to Korean music because it really resonates in their hearts. It's really, for them, one way to access the Western culture that maybe is even more powerful than the Paris way, than the New York way, or the London way, because it's very close to them. Not because it's better or worse, just in terms of values, it's extremely powerful. And I think this is a great transition to talk about what I came to talk to you about, which is how we helped a very big brand actually in China, KFC. I don't eat at KFC myself. I'm French.
There's no KFC in the audience either. So
okay, so you know, I'm not at KFC, but I work for brands and clients, and we had a specific basically brief to help KFC really leverage an experience. Back to the point that was made earlier, an experience that has had to be digital around the use of a very famous Korean K-pop band as well called EXO M. Not too sure if you worked with EXO M yourself? I do, yeah. Okay, cool. They're immensely popular in Asia, North Asia, China, Korea, of course, Japan, but also Southeast Asia and part of the US. And before I dive into that quickly, so what my company does and my team, and you know, just to give you a bit of an understanding, we're a team of about 45, 50 people focused on creating mobile content. As the name says, Mobile Now. We have offices in Shanghai, our HQ, as well as in Singapore, and also in Changsha and in Hangzhou, which are two other cities in China. And the work that we do is revolving around mobile games, mobile applications, WeChat custom services. Today I want to talk about this specific case. So one thing that's first really important, I think, to understand is when you are a brand and trying to make a difference in China as a brand, you have this huge opportunity now, which is to utilize mobile platforms. Chinese consumers have equipped themselves with smartphones for the past 4 or 5 years by hundreds of millions. So they have now these Android handsets and iPhone handsets, and they are consuming content. Some of the content is the same one that you consume. Some of it is very different because it's inspired by, for example, by K-pop culture. So KFC wanted to generate engagement and wanted to build their brand through a mobile game. And they wanted to build their brand through a mobile experience. And there's nothing better, of course, to do that than a game. A game is addictive when it's well designed, well built. It generates a lot of engagement, which is a lot of exposure, and can generate a lot of other KPIs or call for actions. So they were asking us to build a 3D. They were asking us to build an experience, and we suggested to build a 3D tap-tap branded game, which had some O2O integration component to it, leveraging this famous band EXO M. What's interesting about EXO is that they are part Korean, part Chinese. About half of their members are actually Chinese nationals, and the other half are Koreans. So it resonates even more in the Chinese culture. And their videos are awesome. The music it's Korean, it's a style, but the production quality is, as you said, really high. And the integration opportunity for us was to really leverage thousands of stores and restaurants that KFC have in China and integrate basically with a game that leveraged little figurines. You have these meals promotions, which allow you to have a little toy, and this toy was unlocking games. So under the toy, you had QR codes to unlock the different levels. There was a dual objective, which was to build the brand as well as to drive purchase. Let me show you the first teaser video, which quickly introduce. I think we need a bit of, well, at least I would put a bit of music or a bit of sound. And it introduced basically the new Korean menu that KFC promotes in their restaurants, as well as EXO, the band.
和 XO 一起，超能玩出味，还有 XOM 人形玩偶。
So it's a whole integrated campaign with, of course, TVCs, a lot of promotions in stores. The restaurants themselves are huge media, so a lot of media was visible through the stores. And what people do is to play this game. Let me show you a second trailer video. If I can press play. Thank you.
神秘新能，登录肯德基，下载玩出味 APP， 和 XO 一起指尖共舞，还能玩转3大新能。
So you can see,
醒醒，起来吧！ 肯德
you
基
can
XO
see
新
a
能
number
套
of
餐，
items
超
there
能玩出味。
coming together. First, there's actually a game, a 3D game that you can only play if you actually buy the product and unlock additional levels. You can play some of it, but you can only play it fully if you buy some of the figurines that have the QR codes to unlock additional parts of the game. And the application itself has a lot of additional functionalities that allows users to share through social networks, mostly WeChat, GIF animations, video content, and various other score sharing features. It's a really nice game, and I'm just passing through now the next some of the case study. It's a very nice game that's kind of I would say a refreshed version of some of the games that you might have played on PlayStations or even on computers. But on mobile, you do get to interact, I would say even touch the characters in a much more tactile way. So that makes it really engaging. And it really worked very well. So I'll share with you some of the numbers. Within the first 2 weeks of launch, and this is due to the pull, of course, of the K-pop brand as well as the promotion that was all around it, we managed to generate 20 years of accumulative gameplay. So that's calculating how much people are playing the game and just putting it all together. So 20 years of accumulative gameplay. Today, I think after 30 days, we are reaching the 30 years accumulative gameplay. This is a lot of brand building. It's a lot of exposure to the brand. It's a lot of exposure as well to actually EXO. So it works for both sides. It has been the top music game in China for quite a few days, both on Android stores, and there's about 10 different Chinese Android stores this is promoted onto, and on the Apple App Store. It did also accidentally reach a number 2 music game in Japan. The app is not in Japanese, it's in Chinese. On the Apple App Store, it generated number 2 music app. There was a bit of a blimp, no promotion in Japan. That's the pull of the K-pop, basically bands that made that happen. We reached, I think, close to 1.3, 1.4, maybe 1.5 now, millions of downloads. We had to produce more and more toys to keep feeding in the restaurants the whole promotion mechanism. So that's millions of meals sold. It is probably now the leading mobile gaming and O2O, so online to offline, case study in China. So we're very proud of that. And I think we will work more with K-pop bands anytime. It really works.
Amazing, wow. Congrats,
Thank
Thomas,
you.
fantastic. In fact,
KFC really needed it. They were very clear that K-pop was a huge opportunity for them. It's not their first attempt to actually associate to K-pop, so they've done that a couple of times, but they needed it. But one thing about KFC that you should know is KFC in China is bigger than KFC in the US. The China market for KFC, the China business is 40% of their global business. The US is only 35%. The rest of the world kind of doesn't count so much, even Korea, because we tried to propose the promotion of it to Korea, and purely from a business perspective, they just wanted to focus on China. That's what made the NASDAQ, you know what I mean, the listing stock market go up. This is where the stuff needed to happen. Yeah.
That makes me think of something, in fact. When we see this huge engagement story, just a couple of months ago, the show that Normandy Maiden is running called Thoughtful China, there was a topic about actually the missed opportunity by marketers in leveraging this gaming opportunity. I mean, Ogilvy was participating, I remember a few guys. And when we see that, what do you think brands are trying or can achieve in precisely developing branded games? And I mean, first, do you agree with the fact that it is said that there is a missed opportunity and gaming is not leveraged enough? And then, yeah.
I think there's really a missed opportunity for brands in general not to tap onto games. So I'm a mobile, I would say, entrepreneur and marketeer, and I see a lot of digital practitioners driving, budgets onto banner ads, microsites, and they generate a very small amount of engagement. They generate 20 seconds views at best. Maybe somebody will spend a minute on a website. The game is the definition of creating an experience, a digital experience. It is about, when we design a game, we have teams that work on level design, on expectation management, you would stop to play a game the moment you stop learning, the moment you stop being challenged. That's when you will look for the next game. So it's really about, I think the missed opportunity for brands is not to adopt a game building or a game thinking philosophy in general. Is to be very short-term minded. I have to launch by that timeline. And to be honest, what they're going to deliver is not necessarily what they spend enough time onto. If you want to do a game, by the way, you do need a certain amount of money because it's a specific skill set. You need specifically skilled people to do that, so 3D artists, level designers, game developers. They are the best in their specific field. You need time because you need to design these experiences. They need to be tested. They need to be done, and then you need to launch it. And so the opportunity to launch, for example, with an IP license is one way, but you could also promote it through media. And do it the right way. And the reason why the opportunity of really leveraging games for brands is now particularly timely and important today is that the cost of building a game on mobile is far less than it is to build it on a console or to build it on a PC. Actually, brands have been into the business of games since the very beginning. Then they stopped because it got so expensive. Couldn't afford it anymore. That's changed today. With mobile games, you can build casual games, generate a very valid experience, a very rewarding experience for your brand, especially in markets like China, which are very open to gaming. Chinese people play, they gamble, they play a lot of different type of games, traditional games, mahjong, they play digital games. The social network WeChat, to me, is a game. To me, actually, life is a game, right? So everything is a game. But the point is over there's a real, I would say, ability to receive gaming, to receive branded games. There's a lot less cynicism towards brands, and a lot more acceptance to what they have to offer. But it needs to be good content. And I think we as Europeans need to look at, for example, quality content. We need to look at Korean style quality content. We need to look at American style quality content. We have very high level quality content, and we need to make it very reachable to the Chinese users. And games is a great opportunity to do so. I think I went a bit on a full cycle there. Sorry, I'm impressed being in Europe.
That's perfect, thanks. Well, anything that is, yes, any questions?
I just want to support the point that Thomas made in terms of games, because last year we also ran a game, it's experiment for us, and then we ran that together with our program on TV commercials, and instead of like what you did for KFC, who has a bigger brand and also a lot more money than us, we instead choose to work with a online gaming platform. Basically, they are the #1 in China on kids gaming, and then we work with them and use their platform, and then we use that cooperation to generate a lot of exposure of our brands. And during the games that we designed for 6 phases of the game, and then they understand the brand more, they know the products more, and they also know our spokesperson better. So with all that together, TV commercial plus the game, and also we use a similar tool as a code, QR codes on our packaging. We promote not only the brand, we also promote the sales. So it's a very good engagement tool. So it's you know, when people, no matter adults or kids, really engage in that, they know your brand more. So I think for us, it's a very good learning, and I am very glad to see that also, you know, you have a very beautiful example there.
Can I ask which company?
I'm coming from Bongguan, China. We are selling cheese. And
Nice, I
that's
like
why
cheese.
we are small in that sense compared with KFC, right? Yeah. So,
I'm
but
sure your cheese is better.
my cheese is #1. So, although we are small, we are #1. We supply KFC, by the way.
Don't say it. Don't.
Right. Yeah, keep secret in this room. But I also have a point or question to Q, if Thomas, you don't mind. So just now, you know, when we look at the influence of Korean culture to China, it's really amazing. In the recent, let's say, 5 to 10 years. It's film, it's music, it's beauty, it's fashion, and even a lot of accidents, medical accidents happening in the plastic surgery in Korea. Still, a lot of people from China going to Korea just to do that. And, you know, before this wave, it was Japan. And it was the Japan influence. And let's forget about the political issues between China and Japan, okay? Still, I think there are things that you did much better and you did right. I just curious about really how you did that, because it's so big in China.
Well, I didn't do it, but
Your nation, let's say, your people, whatever, your industry.
I think Korean people. I mean, I'm Korean. I'm Korean, blood of Korean, but I grew up in Seattle, in the United States. That's why my English is a little better than your average native Korean. But I think it has a lot. It has a lot to do with our generation is the now generation. So everything you want it now. Especially Asian people want everything now. They don't want to wait for anything. And if you make them wait, then you'll see a demonstration or a riot outside. So, you know, service is so critical and important, especially in Japan. Japan, there's no place better service in Japan than anywhere else in the world than Japan. And then I think that kind of jumps into Korea, and then it kind of falls out everywhere else. But I don't know. I think because of that now. Personality, that Korean people have created things and produced things at a very fast pace. I mean, we have the fastest broadband in the world. I mean, you turn on your phone and you click, and before you even click, you're already on the next page. That's how fast Korean broadband is. I think the reason it's that way is because our country is that much smaller, so it doesn't cover as much ground. I mean, if you want to use the internet here in Europe or in the United States, I mean, and then you've tried using the internet in Korea, you're going to get really mad because you feel like it's so slow here. But if you've never been to Korea, then your internet is normal. But I think because of the influence and the habits of trying to produce things so fast and perfectly, I think that's been an advantage. There's disadvantages too, but I think one of the biggest advantages of that personality trait is being able to do things really efficiently and quickly, and learning from the mistakes of other global companies that they've been able to, benchmark. I think Korean dramas. It started with Korean dramas and movies, and then it went into K-pop and with the fashion and the popularity of Korean artists jumping into Korea, outside of Korea into Japan. Mostly male actors are very popular in Japan. Female actresses aren't very popular in Japan for some reason. And then boy bands are very popular in China and Southeast Asia. The girl bands are kind of closely, following behind, but the boy bands have always been on top since the past 5 years. But to answer your question, I just think it's because of the quickness and the habit of not wanting to wait and finding ways to do things faster than the other person and trying to do things two steps quicker than the other. I mean, the disadvantage of that is because they do things so fast, they do make those kind of mistakes like you had mentioned in plastic surgery or whatnot. But because the efficiency and the quickness of how they create their product is why Korea's been in the forefront as of late.
Okay, great. I'm sure there's plenty of questions, so we're going to take one, if you don't mind, just not to be too late. And in fact, there's going to be Lawrence. Lawrence who's going to come on stage. We are moving forward, going deeper into this. So I guess also at the break session, it will be a great opportunity. Keep your questions actually also for the break. So let's take a last one, if you don't mind. Sorry.
Thank you. Another one for you, sir. And some more.
Can you please introduce yourself?
I'm Stéphane Munier from Stein IS. We are a B2B marketing agency. And I was surprised by when you refer to the influence of the Korean culture over the Chinese, and especially on Psy, how positive and gentle the values that he carries, and when we compare to let's say the violence or the anger that one can see in the US American rap culture, I was surprised about that difference. So is it just a simple basic analysis, or is it one reason why it resonates positively to the Chinese culture?
How do I answer that question? I'll try to answer that as best as I can. From a Korean point of view, from a Korean, not a Korean American point of view, but from a Korean point of view, Korean people have a huge pride of nationalism, about being number one wherever they are, to be the best student, to be the best athlete, to be the best artist, because our parents have instilled this perfection business in us where we have to, if you don't get an A, you're a loser. And we were born that way before we were in the, when we were in the womb. Your parents like, when you're born, you're going to become a lawyer. When you're born, you're going to be a doctor. I mean, that's how, Korean people have been built through the ages. And, not only 30, 40 years ago, we weren't any better than the Philippines. We were close to being a third world country, but the past 20, 30 years, we have Samsung, we have LG, we have Hyundai, we have K-pop, we have, fashion and everything now that is, on the rise. And I think it's a matter of wanting to show the world what we have to offer. From a Korean American standpoint, I don't want to get too personal, but when Americans looked at me growing up, they asked me if I was Chinese. They asked me if I was Japanese. And I wasn't really offended by that, but I was a little bothered because not because Chinese people or Japanese people are bad people, but I'm not Chinese and I'm not Japanese. Why can't you figure that out and call me what I really am? And a lot of Koreans, you know, went through that kind of, I wouldn't say pain, but that kind of, you know, that kind of situation. And because of that pride or that willingness to want to be a little bit more recognized in the world, I think that's why we've been able to quickly rise to a little higher level and also be able to be a forefront in this business. So I think that's the root of it, really. And now because of Gangnam Style, when people look at me, they ask me if I'm Korean before they ask me anything else, which makes me really happy. Almost made me emotional the first time when someone asked me, "Are you Korean?" And then the second question was, "Do you know Gangnam Style?" So, I mean, that was a very proud moment for me to be a part of that. And I think because of wanting that kind of recognition from people in Europe or from the United States or from Asia or from Africa, that's one of the things that drive Koreans to be better or to be as good as people around the world.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.